Testing 1, 2, 3. This is fine. Yes, that is right. It is Sunday evening here in a secret location, which isn't actually that secret given that it's Australia. And it might be afternoon where you are, it might be evening, but you are for certain tuned into PlanMixPlay versus YouTube on Slay Radio. I'm your host Kazoo, and I will be hanging out with you for about 2 hours. You can join me and a bunch of other people in the chat. I have posted a YouTube link as per usual, because now the show is a bit visual. Have some prepared topics. Just thought right off the bat I'd say hello to some people who are hanging out. Natharul, someone I don't think I've seen before. Raspor, local hoster, Shargo, and my brother, who I'll give a shout out to as well, I believe may or may not be listening in. So, I'm gonna start off with something that I've picked, because I have a tendency to start off with requests, and even though I am all about requests, but there's some things have happened, and I'll get into exactly what that is. I think I found the perfect tune to start us off with. It is none other than CZ Tunes, one of my favorites. I'm gonna kill the bed there. I'm gonna tune CZ Tunes up here. So we'll get into the first song and then we'll kind of start business. This is CZ Tunes with Blue Angel 69 title remix, Chili Sid Mix. I'm not sure why. I thought there actually was a bit more to that song at the end, but it turns out that there wasn't. Anyway, hello everyone. I feel I missed out a few people who were in the chat, so once again I thought I'd just say hello to LP Chip. Co-op Dot was in there as well, Shargo of course, and people who are requesting, also LP Chip, Raspor, and so hey to everyone. And it bears repeating that if you want to join in and chat with people, you can go on EFNet on Slay Radio. And what you heard there was, if you're on the YouTube stream, you probably heard a little bit of a Skype pop up, and that's kind of annoying because I thought I had actually. So this is the interesting thing: the YouTube stream kind of just takes whatever output my computer gets, which means on occasion you might get a few odd bits and sounds in there that I haven't been able to take care of, but it's simply the easiest way for me to get the audio stream out to YouTube. And it also allows me to do some stuff further down the road, which I think we'll get into after one more song. I've had a bit of it's been a not hectic day, but a slightly, how should I say, just there's been lots to do. So please pardon if I once again not immediately play a request, but simply take on a song that I picked. And here's one we haven't heard in a while. It's Goal Big Nose's USA Adventure, which I thought would be nice to play. And also hello to GoHangs, who joins us in the chat. Anyway, up next, it is Goal with Big Nose's USA Adventure. And then hopefully I can get into something a bit more serious, because I do have a few topics on the line. And there you have it. That was Big Nose's USA Adventure, and I'm trying to get back into the groove here. I don't know what's... I seem to be skipping a few beats, but I do apologize for that and hope... No, I'll rephrase that. I do apologize, and I thank you for bearing with me on this lovely Sunday here. But it is a PMP versus YouTube show. So first of all, let's get a bummer out of the way. The big bummer is I've worked hard this week to again try to get the latest version of PlanMixPlay up and running, but unfortunately was unable to do so. One of the last things that seemed to be getting in the way of me fixing a few things and getting more visuals on track is a really annoying deeper bug. So basically, I think maybe even last show I talked about how I rewrote some of the event handling systems in PlanMixPlay. And this basically was motivated by the fact that the version as is, surprisingly, and I don't get why it didn't happen before, but on occasion, some of the objects that get signals would delete themselves as a result of the signals that they get. And in C++, generally speaking, if you have an event system and it sends out events and objects delete themselves as the events are being handled, that causes a lot of problems, to keep it short. So I made some stuff simpler and I made some stuff more complex, and at the end of the day, what I then found out was unfortunately that some sort of bug has crept in that only it exhibits itself in release mode, which is a somewhat... release mode bugs are a nightmare in many ways. Now, fortunately, the program and the part of the program that fails is simple enough that with enough debugging information, I should be able to suss out what works and what doesn't. But to make matters even more, it's only a consistent issue about 80-70% of the time. So occasionally... Oh, there's a dog outside. Occasionally, when I do start the program, everything works great. And then maybe every third time or every second time, it won't work as well, which is frustrating. So yeah, that's a bit of a bummer, but I'm doing what I can. Hopefully soon I'll have something interesting to show, say, do. Anyway, one more song picked by me before we get into a few requests, and part of that is actually because I can't play all of the requests. So Shargo, you wanted some Mine in a Box, and I cannot as is currently play that, and we'll get into why. And LP Chip says he wanted to play an original SID that he sent. LP Chip, I would ask you to resend it, because maybe, I'm not sure if I have gotten it, I might have, but if you just shoot me a private link in the chat, that would be great. And Raspor, you want IDMM Hawkeye IDMM Remix. I wouldn't mind having a link for that as well, because I honestly could not pick that up on RKO. Immortal, though, has some requests we'll be playing later on, and that's kind of it. The list is pretty short so far, because I can't play a few, so I thought instead we'll take some Hazel with Mugsy's Revenge. and that tune always ends on a really sudden note, if you ask me. I always expect it to keep going for a little bit, and then it doesn't. Also, as with the usual shows now, I suppose, or this would be the third in a row, we have visuals. So I have posted a link in the chat, but if you're not in the chat and you'd still like to see the show visuals, just go to, I think the easiest route to get there is simply to go to PlanMixPlay.com, and then there is a YouTube icon on the left-hand side of the page right under the download button. You should be able to see a blue download button and a YouTube icon underneath. And yeah, or you can also just go to youtube.com and search for PlanMixPlay, all one word together, and be able to find a live stream that way. But there is also a link in the topic of the chat if you are so inclined. It is, the visuals haven't really changed much since the last couple of shows. I do hope to do something with it soon or improve upon them, but this new really, really annoying bug is paramount that I get fixed first and foremost, because it is, let's just say, so it's a bug that for some reason doesn't order some of the objects in the correct order in the UI. So when I use the mouse to move elements around in this new version, sometimes it'll feel that it's unnecessary to communicate these interactions to the objects. So sometimes I can't move any of the songs on the play timeline, or I can't move the timeline itself. And that's quite disastrous. In fact, it would be nigh on impossible to do a show with that problem looming. So until that particular problem is fixed, everything else is on standby. And people in the chat are making one crack after another about what I should be using. Immortal says use C hash. Localhoster says UC99. Yeah. I mean, look, every programming language, I mean, I know these are all said in jest, but to be honest for a moment, every programming language has its share of issues here and there, but there's no doubt that C++ definitely stands out among those where you are able to really, really make big mistakes that are very hard to catch if you aren't careful. Let's take the first request of the evening, and then we'll get into the topics of tonight. And first one that I'm going to play is by Immortal, who wanted a bit of Moog with, Moog, better known as Sebastian Bachlinski, with JazzCat 007. And I do appreciate that people are trickling in with a few more requests, so I'll see what I can do. And we'll get to exactly why I'm not actively going to be playing Mind in a Box tonight. Anyway. Take it away, Moog, with JazzCat 007.
Been asking for you all morning. Where in the world are you, Jay?
Well, I've just been reviewing an old case.
Oh, so I'm an old case now, am I?
The office. Tell him I'm on my way, will you?
He is not on his way.
Yeah, behave. We'll do this again some other time soon.
Do what? Last time you said that, you went off to Jamaica. I've seen you for 6 months.
I'll be down there now.
Hey, you're okay.
And there it fades out to the end. That was Moog, Sebastian Bachlinski, JazzCat 007, requested by none other than Immortal. So Immortal, thank you very much for requesting that. So let's get into the topics here. And well, part of the program tonight is to talk a little bit about YouTube and copyright, because it seems very prompt given that my last show was hit with 2 individual copyright claims, both from C64 remixes, and both of the claims being totally accurate and legitimate. It doesn't really matter which songs, but I'm sure you can guess that one of them was from Mind in a Box, and the other one happens to be the Zeitgeist song, both of course being commercially released, and thus being under the umbrella of a copyright company, a company in, well, actually in multiple countries that basically has simply one interest at heart, and that's making sure that whenever music is played that has some sort of rights associated with it, the artist gets their fair due, or as it were, fair share. And again, I want to start out this discussion by saying I think that is totally fair. Look, working as an artist and making music is tough, and sure, there are people at the very top of the food chain who have more money than they know what to do with, but then there are also people far, far further down the food chain who basically need every single dollar that can come rolling their way. But I'm not really going to talk about the morals and ethics of all of that. I'm more going to talk about how YouTube works and a little bit about their system, because I find that maybe more interesting. And we need to differentiate between 2 different types of copyright management tools that YouTube has. One would be a copyright takedown, also known as the very, very happy DMCA claim. The other is what they call a content ID claim. And the first one, a copyright takedown, is governed by law, and there is a procedure that the claimant has to follow, as well as one YouTube has to follow. So basically, there is a series of documents that you have to fill out as governed by American law, probably also maybe even individual other states, but of course the DMCA is a US thing, and YouTube is also obliged to follow a specific type of procedure if such paperwork arrives on their doorstep. And the most interesting consequence of all of this is that it results in a strike on your channel, and a strike is very, very bad, and we'll get to that in a bit. But let's talk about the content ID claim, and then we'll take a song. The content ID claim is an automated system, so no one fills out any sort of paperwork for that to happen, at least not when it's actively happening. And it involves a set of deals which basically allows YouTube to kind of mediate the problem, while still allowing some material to be used, but generally taking away freedoms that aren't really yours, which, yeah, I think is totally fair. The important thing is that this does not lead to a strike on your channel. And I'm sitting here thinking, should we talk about strikes or shouldn't we? I think we'll take that after this next request. Let's see who it was. Yes, Go Hanks. You wanted some Infamous with Twinkie Goes Raving, and I have never heard this song before, so I'm quite keen to hear it as well, because I have a number of other Infamous songs in my library as well. Let's see here. Let me just zoom in a little bit. Yes, there we go. So this is Infamous with Twinkie Goes Raving, and then we'll get back to these strikes. And there it just ends. Again, one of those things where I kind of wish it had just a little bit more of some sort of lead there telling me, hey, this is coming to an end. But hey, I could program that in as well. And it's something I've actually thought about. It would be really useful for me to have a kind of a few DJ tools actually have this. When you're doing sets, if it detects that you're coming up on... if it detects that you're basically coming up on not having any sort of music being played, then it will start flashing red, kind of giving you a big light that something's going on. All right, so getting back to the matter at hand. Well, first of all, thank you, GoHanks, for requesting that. And also, before we get any further, maybe I should ask, let's see, who was it? Someone requested some Glennar Brown with Storm. I thought I saw that, but I can't find it on RKO for some reason. Maybe someone else can tell me. Is it because it's under a different name than Glennar Brown? Or hasn't he made a Storm remix? Anyway, this was requested by Craig, I'm guessing from Newton Acliff. So maybe someone in the chat can let me know what's up with that. Anyway, moving on. Let's get to these strikes, as it were, and why they're so monstrous. In a word... they're bad. They actively limit your ability to operate within the YouTube ecosystem. If the strike occurred as part of a live stream or an archived live stream, which very much would be the case as of this show, your ability to stream will be restricted. And that's a very broad, odd term. Like, restricting something that's a weird way of them phrasing it, if you ask me, because to me it doesn't mean it's disabled. But it could mean disabled. It could also just mean that we're now not letting you stream for as long, or maybe there's some huge buffer they put in where they're like, look, if you are caught doing this multiple times, you can stream for as much as you want, but we're now going to activate this even heftier content verification system and put that on you. So I don't really know what restricted means. But I can tell you what's much, much worse is that 3 strikes on your account will lead to account termination, video deletion, as well as the removal of the ability to create new accounts. Of course, I would say the last one can to some degree be circumvented, and I have no interest in doing anything that would upset any sort of balance here. But it does mean that I need to think a bit about things now that the show is also being broadcast on YouTube. And this ties directly into, yes, what GoHanks is mentioning, as well as Shargo is wondering, the fact that some of these tracks are, of course, commercially released, and as such will have the content claim levied on them. Now, it's interesting, let's see who... Yes, Local Hoster said, do a Sterling, of course referring to Jim Sterling, who figured out that, hey, if someone is trying to monetize... For example, so the interesting thing is... if someone claims a content on your video, so not the copyright strike, but instead the content claim, a few things can happen. Either they can say, okay, we will now monetize your video, or we will get any sort of monetization. So if you have ads running on your video, we'll get some of that. It used to be that they got all of it. I think now you actually do end up with some sort of split between you and them. But they can also block your video, and that's actually what happened in my previous show. One of the 2 songs wanted to block, and the other one wanted to monetize. And I guess if any content claim it wishes for the content to be blocked, that one will supersede the other claims. So the video was blocked, and I think it said something like 176 countries, which I think is all but 1 or 2. Which is, of course, ridiculous in terms of that it might as well have been blocked in all countries. All but 1 doesn't really matter to me as such. So I promptly removed that. Because, hey, and actually I got some... We'll get back to removing the audio. And as for the monetization claim, well, I wouldn't really mind playing songs that want the monetization as long as it doesn't enable monetization, because currently I see no reason whatsoever why PlanMixPlay shows on YouTube should have any ads running in front of them, because all of this is, of course, free. The songs themselves are, not without copyright. That's the other important thing here. Look, all the music that I'm playing, even the ones that isn't commercially released, is still has copyright on it. Like, none of it is without copyright, but I'm getting into that as well. What all this means. In fact, that's the next thing coming up. First and foremost, what does all of this mean? What's going to happen here? But let's take another song, and then we'll get into exactly what all this means, what the consequences are as such. And I want to play. Yeah. See, this is. You know what? I kind of want to play Glenn Brown Rubicon, but when I figure out what this Glenn Brown storm situation is, then I'll have played a bit too more of that. You know what? No, let's take some Kent Valdian with Way of the Exploding Fist Tune 3, because we could all use a bit more of that. So, requested by me, played by me for you, this is Kent Valdian with Way of the Exploding Fist Tune 3. Ken Walden with Way of the Exploding Fist 2 and 3. I don't know if people are just maybe trolling me, because now I realized after being a bit more thorough with my search that the Glenn Brown song Storm, requested by Craig, maybe from Ayton Newcliffe, I'm not sure. That's the main Craig that I know, is commercial as well, so hee hee, ha ha ha, fun fun fun. As I said, commercial songs or commercially released songs, who knows, might have been a coincidence, but currently they're a no-no, or at least maybe. See, that's the thing. That's what we're going to talk about. What does this mean for me and for you and PlanMixPlay going forward? I initially considered engaging the copyright holders. So Slaygun has previously mentioned, or I'm sure multiple people have sometimes mentioned, that there is a kind of a blanket agreement here for Slay Radio with most copyright holders for the commercially released C64 stuff. Now, obviously, this doesn't extend to YouTube. I've read enough about copyright in the past to know that, look, YouTube is its own ecosystem thing. While it is unlikely, some of these copyright holders might be convinced that they could loosen these claims, and I will be honest though and say I figure though at this point, in terms of the type of show, the size of the show, the chance of any sort of engagement from them other than no is pretty close to non-existence. They just wouldn't really care enough to bother. Like, the main question would be, the main calculation for them is to allow you to do this. Not only kind of opens up some minor or maybe even major risks that we don't really like. It's also something we have to then actively engage in. I know that there are channel networks on YouTube that have different agreements and licensing, so I'm pretty sure if you join a channel network, you might be able to play a lot of commercially released stuff and then get some terms that go along with that. Again, it's never going to be without some sort of monetization split, but I'm pretty sure that the channel networks on YouTube operate somewhat differently than just a single person on YouTube that I am currently. And that's all because it's a lot more curated, it's more tightly woven with YouTube. Like, nobody at YouTube, or at least nobody who matters at YouTube at this point, has ever heard of the show or gives a crap. And that actually makes quite a difference. And Local Hoster asked if artists individually could give permission to broadcast or get permission to play some of these tunes. And so the sad fact is that once you as an artist sign with these umbrella companies that kind of own all the rights, you give up your rights to allow, others to individually play your songs to some degree. You basically say to them, look, they give you a contract which is like, well, you have no individual rights to this anymore. And part of it is because it's always been that way. Part of it is because they definitely prefer it that way. And part of it is also because it would complicate a lot of things if every individual artist could, demand their own rights. And it's easier if there's simply one point for anyone to go through if they want to have some sort of access or authorization. And again, it becomes clear that the bigger an artist you are, of course, suddenly the rules can change. So, huge recording artists these days, even though they have these umbrella companies acting on their behalf, they would probably be able to have a deal in place that says, look, you guys take care of all the general stuff, but if ever I want to, give rights to this radio station or this, stadium event to play a song of mine, I'm allowed to do so, and I'm sure that that this rights holder corporation would be more than happy to do it. And I forget, it's the RIAA in America, I believe, the Recording Industry Artists of America or Association of America or something. And in Germany, I believe it's GEMA, GEMA. I forget what it is in Denmark. I used to know that as well. But yeah, every country basically has one of these. So the short answer is, getting any sort of stamp of approval from these people is slim to none. In fact, it's so slim that as is, I don't think I'm going to waste my breath on it. Maybe somewhere down the line. And that, of course, then probably leaves you to wonder, well, is that it then? Like, can these songs never be played? No, not exactly. So basically, there are a few alternatives here, and let me list them. And I'd be keen to hear in the chat or any other sort of communications means what exactly you think is preferable. I've kind of made up my mind with what I'm going to start with, but I'm always interested in hearing listeners and their opinions. So, as I don't intend to stop the visuals, I see three different options. One would be to play this copyrighted material, but mute the music headed to YouTube. And while I can clearly communicate via the visuals on YouTube that the audio isn't being played due to various copyright claims, it is a solution that certainly isn't ideal for anyone who just watches the show on YouTube, or catches a rerun on there. It would be a crappy experience. But hey, it's an option. In fact, the show would even be able to probably visually communicate, hey, there's this much time left until you will hear audio again. That's one option. The other option is to play only non-commercially released C64 music. It's a viable but not ideal solution either. And then the last possibility is to stream the visuals elsewhere. Again, viable, still not optimal. But that's what we have. I wouldn't say any of these three solutions are grand. And currently, again, I'm very interested in hearing what you guys think in the chat or via other means. Currently, as you can tell, I'm generally sticking with not playing any of the commercial music for now. And that's simply because in order to play some of it on Slay Radio but not on YouTube also requires further attention and building and many other things. And again, time is short. There are many other things that I'd like to do before then, because this is such a boring task to take care of. So there you have it for now. Let's take a... let's see, someone had a request here. Yes, Kahukas wrote he wants Tiker High. I presume you mean the version by Jess D. Skov Nielsen. I haven't heard this song before. I'm not even sure I've heard anything from JDS, the remixer. So let's give it a listen. This is Tiker High from Jess D. Skov Nielsen. Take it away. Of course, I know this song. I've heard this before, of course. Tiker High from J.D. Skov, Jess D. Skov Nielsen for Kahukas. Hopefully you enjoyed that, Kahukas. And yes, I've heard that song before, so I'm not really quite sure why I don't know. I guess I just kind of blanked out. I definitely heard this song plenty of times before. Anyway, to get back to the topic at hand. So of course people are, to me at least, not surprisingly, generally preferring both of the other options that I'm currently not going with, which I get. I'm aware of that. And also, look, first of all, I want to highlight someone who mentioned, Locoso mentioned, the third option is morally weird. I think you might have, maybe I forgot to say it, or maybe you're just misunderstanding, but streaming somewhere else would just be the visuals, like moving the visuals from YouTube to, I don't know, Twitch or to Beam Team or to one of the Swedish clones or something else. Like, I still intend to continue doing the audio output on Slay Radio as is currently. So even though I see that as being connected, it's not as if someone from Slay Radio directed me to YouTube and said, hey, this is where you should be streaming your visuals. I'll be honest and say I'm not sure anyone at Slay Radio has any opinion about that. And yeah, blocking the output of the commercial songs would be perhaps preferable, at least for all the listeners. And that's the other thing. I get that there's a listener base from Slay Radio, and it's one of those odd things where I'm a little bit divided, because on the one hand, look, I know that you guys are kind of you are by far the core group listening in, and I don't want to disappoint you. At the same time, it is my own show, so if I feel the show, how should I say, suffers significantly by having this kind of annoyance put into it, I'd much rather say, well, then we'll have to make do without some of the songs for now. But Natharul does put up a good point, which is I won't necessarily know what can get a strike as such. Then again, though, and also this is important to note, it's not a strike. That's also another thing we should get into. So content ID claims are the main likelihood that are going to happen. And that's because the content ID claims are first and foremost the problem that looms. I'm not as worried because these claims are generally easier to deal with. I won't necessarily know which songs can be claimed, but I would be doing some proper research prior to broadcast and try to make sure that every commercially released song is, of course, not aired and thus cannot be content claimed. However, coming back to... yes, and there is, of course, human error. But coming back to the copyright claim, so this is the other thing. As I mentioned before, even with these unreleased songs, copyright is not just, something that isn't there. Every one of these songs have a copyright attached to it. And what I'm getting at is saying, while I have not spoken with each individual arranger behind any of these tracks, given that none of this is monetized, I'm working absolutely under the assumption that these composers are okay with me exposing them to a bigger audience, as long as I, do due diligence, give them credit, and put that in the YouTube video. And that's absolutely something I intend to do. In fact, I did the bare minimum for the first time around, so everyone who watches the YouTube link can at least see what song is actively playing. But moving forward, I totally want to make sure that I have a much more encompassing visual that shows what's going on, where the songs, maybe even fill out the description if I can automatically. A lot of that stuff is what I want to do. And we'll get to that. Anyway, I talk, and we need more music. This is why a number of the requests so far I'd have to skip, unfortunately. Anyway, let's play a song that I can play, which is Da Funk with The Second Moment. Take it away, Da Funk. Funk with The Second Moment. And as I've said before, but I feel I might as well highlight again, is that there's kind of this interesting, well, look, all of this isn't super black and white. And just because a song hasn't been commercially released and isn't actively being content claimed by YouTube does not mean that I have all the rights to play the songs. And I highlight this well knowing that it's, well, you know, it's basic copyright law in a sense. So I'm very much acting under what I would say a certain modicum of good faith, that because I'm not monetizing the shows, there is no ads, you know, I don't, you know, make any money off of doing the shows, that for me to give these songs a bigger platform when they don't have a commercial one to be released on is okay by the individuals who have remixed them. And local hoster who is chatting me up in a bit is asking as to who might these rights come from. And so it's not an easy thing, because C64 remixes are of course based on compositions not originally created by the remixers themselves. They have composers behind them, and I am not entirely sure how exactly the rights then act. I know that a lot of it has to do with, some of it has to do with, for example, fair use and what can you do and what can't you do, and if the work is transformative enough, you can make it your own. But music is such a slippery thing, like even the smallest sample can have widespread consequences. What was it? There was this Marvin Gaye song, and I forget who. There was a song recently that had a huge settlement smacked on it, and it seemed as though part of the reason why the settlement got ruled in favor of the person suing, which was, I believe, the estate of Marvin Gaye, was that the original authors of this new song had actively engaged them in trying to get the rights to some of the music that he'd written or get some samples. And then when they were turned down and basically tried to skirt as close as they could to the song, there was a literal, well, almost literal, more metaphorical one, but anyway, a metaphorical smoking gun available in terms of evidence, because, you know, they could just point at these previous attempts to negotiate and say, well, look, clearly they wanted to sample and get some of this music stuff, and when they couldn't, they basically made something that sounded almost exactly like it. And I remember being quite shocked when this settlement came down. You know what, let me look up what that was, because that is... Yeah, exactly. It was Pharrell, of course, and his Blurred Lines. That is, and yeah, and Robin Thicke and Pharrell with their Blurred Lines are to pay $7.2 million in a lawsuit, which I don't know. I thought that was insane. Yeah, I don't know. It seemed so ridiculous to me, because they were basically, if I'm not mistaken, and I should with this next song read up and figure out exactly what it is that happened. But I remember being pretty certain that the judgment came down not because they were sampling something, but because it just sounded so like that type of material, like almost like just saying, well, you sound like this other artist, so I'm sorry, but you'll have to pay. And that just seemed ridiculous to me. Anyway, I'm going to play a request that I can play, hopefully. At least I think I can. And Shane, who says that he's listening in, but currently at work, so can't join the chat, wanted Pyrrx, or P-I-R-X, with Hawkeye. And don't think I've heard this one before, but let's give it a look. This is for you, Shane. That was for Chain, P-I-R-X, or Perks, I suppose, with Hawkeye. And it's not the first time we've been talking on the show about copyright and, well, more recently when we talked a bit about lawsuits and plagiarism. And look, I think it's hard. I remember hearing at least some of the Marvin Gaye song and hearing some of the blurred lines and thinking, well, musically they sound similar, but I'm not sure if I would actually say that a lot of it, again, I would say they're mimicking the style, but that's how I recall it being. I felt very differently, for example, about the case I mentioned a number of shows back, which was Timbaland plagiarizing a chiptune called Acid Jazzed Evening by a Finnish demo scener called Janne Sunni. And yeah, it's like there are YouTube comparisons of those songs where I think it is clear as daylight that a certain progression of chords was ripped straight out of that song. In fact, more than that, almost like the entire base of the song shares strong similarities. Of course, very different quality instruments are used. One is a chiptune, another is a very slickly produced piece of music for commercial release. But I remember being completely stunned that never went any further, basically, than I guess a dead end. Just because, or the perception to me was, well, since they don't have the money to do it or fight this case hard enough, then tough shit. Like they yeah, I don't know. There's very little you can do if you just don't have the right amount of money to fight this in court, because it is a very big thing. And thus, the estate of Marvin Gaye having it out with Robin Thicke and Pharrell also just seems ludicrous, because both of these people are probably very wealthy, and for them, look, I'm not saying $17 million isn't a lot of money, but it's still one of those things where you're fighting over such a huge sum. I don't know. I thought I had some big thought to close up on, but I don't. I just remember feeling that they didn't seem as similar at all compared to what I would say is an open and shut case with Timbaland and this chiptune. But hey, I guess it is also very subjective. And Raspor mentions in the chat if that I should ask the Verve about dealing with the Rolling Stones, and indeed, or ask Ice-T and Queen Under Pressure. Like, there are very, very classic examples. And listening, it's so fun. There is an interview with Ice-T where he says, no, like the riff in Under Pressure is din 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 din, and the one that we did is din 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 din, or something. Like, it's barely noticeably different. Yeah, music, man, rights, copyright, it's tough. It's not easy. What can you do? Anyway, barring more requests, because I can't play the ones I have, I'm gonna play you some DJ B with Pool Party. Yes, you're right, local hoster. That was Vanilla Ice, not Iced Tea. Blah. people be correcting me all over in the chat. Yes. It was Vanilla Ice, not iced tea. Close, but no cigar. That was DJB with Pool Party, and we have another request coming up. But before that, I thought I'd pick something again, and I'm looking. I thought I'd pick something with a letter starting very late in the alphabet. You know what? Why don't we take this one? Because I just happened to get to T and Immortal very much early in the show. Given that, again, I do apologize to Shargo and LP Chip for other reasons, and Raspor and Craig as well, that I can't play these commercially released songs for now. But Immortal, you also did want the Cheesemakers with Elite, so here it is. The Cheesemakers with Elite. Sorry for my slow reaction, but yeah, I don't know what it is tonight. Sometimes, for some reason tonight, there are just so many things, kind of balls in the air, things all over the place, that I'm just, I don't know, just trying my best to keep it focused, but it always seems as though the song just kind of outruns me. It just makes me all the more annoyed that I currently still have these issues with PlanMixPlay and haven't gotten the latest version up to snuff, because there is really, the most depressing thing is the new version, as soon as it's ready, all it'll really allow me to do is to somewhat of a better degree control the visual elements, and then the next step is to start putting more visual elements in there. But there's still a bit to go until I get to that part, that is. Anyway, Fortunately, another request came in that I can play. This time from 80s Dude, who says, "Good morning, Gazoo. Can you play an old XX Dusty remix? The Shockwave 2007 remix." And I'd be very happy to, 80s Dude. In addition, don't forget that there are visuals to go along with the show present in the chat up on the topic. And also, if you just Google YouTube and PlanMixPlay. In the meantime, please enjoy this version of Shockwave. Very clearly an Amiga mix, this. 80s dude, that was for you. Thank you for requesting that. And also, of course, thank you for everyone else and their requests. And as I've said before, I do apologize for not being able to play some of the requests. And also at the same time, hey, it's my show. If I can't do it, that's kind of my business, I suppose. Let's take a song from LP Chip. I've picked Druid 2 Enlightenment, the Sid Overdrive and Funk remix. And after that, I thought I'd say a word or two about Logan, which I saw the other night. Stick around. Here's LP Chip. LP Chip with Druid 2 Enlightenment, Sid Overdrive and Funk remix for LP Chip. So Logan, the movie, the current and latest movie in the X-Men series, bound not to be the last if the money keeps flowing. I'm not going to spoil anything, so no spoiler alert needed. I will say I enjoyed the movie tremendously. I will also say that it was quite brutal. I would say I had tears at two distinct times throughout the movie. I was stunned to read that it's actually also the director behind X-Men Origins Wolverine. And that's not because I think X-Men Origins Wolverine is an okay movie. If I'm not mistaken, I think my brother loathes it a bit. And I'll say yes, X-Men. So I think the reason why my brother and some other people would tend to be very hard on that movie is because it messes a lot with the established canon, as X-Men 3 did. And for this, I am going to say spoiler alert, because I'm guessing. Look, if you haven't seen X-Men 3, it's an old movie, but I'm going to say a few things. That movie in particular messes with the deaths of some of the mutants and even how they die, and I remember seeing that and going like, that's not how that is actually supposed to happen. And usually, I don't care enough about a lot of material to really mind if it doesn't stick to the original in general. But if it doesn't, especially if I know the material, I'm usually curious as to what's the reason to change things one way or the other. Case in point being the Lord of the Rings trilogy. In the last movie in the trilogy, you see... what's his name again? Now I have to look it up. What is that guy from... I should know this. Lord of the Rings. The guy from Gondor. The human. Who is that again? In the Fellowship, there's the other human. Is it Boromir? I have to think. I think it might be him. Yes, I believe it is Boromir, who's in the in the Fellowship. So, and he's one of the humans, and I think I remember in the third. I'm going to spoil something again here, but this is a minor thing. In the third movie of The Lord of the Rings, you meet his brother, and he shows up in the book as well. And in the book, whenever that ring is... There's one particular part of the book where the ring is mentioned, and contrary to his brother... so contrary to Boromir himself, his brother chooses to not even want to see the ring. Like, he's offered if he wants to actually look at it with his own eyes, and he basically straight up says, nah, son. Like, I know that thing is so tempting that even just being in its presence, I would rather not. Whereas in the movie, and I don't know, maybe it hasn't been highlighted properly because, on some level, every movie has to stand on its own. But in the movie, I remember that scene being rewritten just exactly as almost just like when Boromir first sees the ring and kind of goes a bit ring crazy and wants it for himself. And I remember thinking, no, in the book, it served a huge purpose that his brother was way smarter and way clever, and he wasn't a big warlord and kind of wasn't as well looked up. He was kind of looked down on in his family, but at the end, in the book, he kind of gets a bit of redemption because at least he's clever enough to know that the ring isn't to be trifled with, whereas in the book, he is just turned into another carbon clone of Boromir, which felt like a sacrifice. It felt to me as if it made the movie dumber. But then again, I suppose if the third one hadn't already established and drilled home far enough that the ring is dangerous and corrupts everyone, maybe that's why he was rewritten in that sense. Anyway, getting back to Logan, I went really far off path here. I think it's a terrific movie, and without spoiling anything, what I can say is that the R rating is very much earned. It is an incredibly brutal, harsh film to see, but it is also so much the better for it. It is not brutal for the sake of brutality. It has a lot of it in it because it is a very adult movie with a lot of adult themes in it, and I think that's definitely to its credit. Like, it handles this more realistic, unpleasant world that it takes place in much, much better because of it. I simply could not imagine that movie with a lower rating, to be honest. It is tremendous. It is also Hugh Jackman's last appearance as Wolverine. Not that I'd say that makes it necessary, because I cannot fathom that there won't be another movie with Wolverine in it in some context. But hey, and also I would say it doesn't pull any punches. It goes all the way in a lot of ways, and I wish I could say more, but that would be spoiling a lot of stuff. So I would highly recommend to go see it. I thought it was a terrific movie, but it is nasty. So if you are a bit queasy, I would say think twice about it. And yes, Raspor mentions his brother is Faramir. I think that is right. Anyway, so yeah, I think Logan is pretty damn amazing. I'm very happy that I spent that money, and I hope it does super well, because I would totally want more R-rated superhero movies to come out, because I think it serves the stories better, at least in some cases. Some people were joking that in the earlier X-Men movies, Wolverine sliced people up so clean, there was no blood. Anyway, here's Immortal's Request, Da Funk 3-Minute Wonder.
The Bassmunk. Observe the bass monkey. These highly evolved creatures are members of the New World primates. They are known to be the most intelligent animal ever studied. They have very sensitive hearing and interesting mating habits. At 60 hertz, at about 130 beats per minute, bass monkeys are known to start dancing like they were drugged. We have found that prolonged exposure of these frequencies to bass monkeys have caused them to enter an almost ravenous state. Let me demonstrate for you. Further field studies have provided fascinating results. Fixate on shiny lights. We have concluded that their behavior must be due to one thing, and one thing only. It must be the music. Bass monkeys, like they were drugged. Then they fucked, like crazed animals. Bass monkeys, like they were drugged. Then they fucked, like crazed animals. Bass monkeys.
Da Funk with 3-Minute Wonder, Bass Monkeys, minimal electronic, and I'm taking it into another song. Thanks, Immortal, for that request. This is, as you can hear playing in the background, Hazel with Nemesis the Warlock. Hazel with Nemesis the Warlock. Just a few more words on Logan, since, well, it is a recent topic we just discussed. I think one of the most positive things I can say about it is absolutely that the narrative in the story is very clear and clean, and all of the story beats are not extrapolated via exposition. You are shown scenarios, you are shown situations. It is a very, not only, as I mentioned before, brutal, but also very dark movie. This is also why I guess I would recommend anyone who's a little overly sensitive to things like that to reconsider maybe watching the movie, because it isn't a pleasant movie, I would say. But the story it tells, as I said, it does it exceedingly well, so much so that, as I said, I was a bit surprised to see that the director was the same one who directed X-Men Origins Wolverine. And of course, we have to recall that a lot of different players are, how should I say, engaged in making a movie. The director is just one component. There is the script itself, there's the actors, cinematographer, so many different people. So of course, as a director, there is a certain limit to what you can change and what you can do, because at the end of the day, look, you are hired to shoot the script. But the director, as is my understanding, still has a lot of say in how the artistic flow is. And X-Men Wolverine, or X-Men Origins Wolverine, is just such a by-the-numbers movie. In fact, it's almost to the point that I'm wondering if I'm not mistaking the director as actually directing the Wolverine, because that movie is, I would say, not great, but not as bad as X-Men Origins. And now I want to make sure I'm not making the mistake here. So this, The Wolverine is directed by James Mangold, and let's make sure that Logan is James Mangold as well. I'm pretty sure it is. Yes, James Mangold. And let's see, X-Men Origins. Is Origins also Mangold? No, that's Gavin Hood. Ah, okay. That would make a lot more sense then. Yes, crappy movie, different director. But rest assured, this movie far outdoes the Wolverine in many, many ways. So yes, indeed, it was not the X-Men Origins director, which is, again, I think the movie is okay, but certainly not like it is a super, super run-of-the-mill movie, whereas this movie, Logan, I would put in, I don't know, as far as, for me, 8, maybe even 9 out of 10. I would definitely recommend going to see it. Anyway, since we also talked about plagiarism, I thought it apt to pick out Luke Hash's version of Acid Jazzed Evening. It's sort of a tiny tribute in the direction of Jan Sunni and this terrible Timbaland plagiarism thing. So take it away, Luke Hash. Luke Hash with Acid Jazzed Evening. Well, my friends, I think this is where we are close to parting ways. It's been a lovely show for me. I hope you've enjoyed it as well. A few more snags this time around. I do apologize for not delivering a more clean show, and I really hope that I can get this next version of PlanMixPlay just somewhat more ready for next time, because this version is twitchy and jittery in some ways that I'm not too keen on, and it makes me a little concerned that at any moment something can happen, which is of concern. So we're going to wind the show down. I'm going to thank you all for tuning in and watching or listening, and also for your requests. Very much appreciated. I don't feel I should be too apologetic either, because look, this, at the end of the day, this is my show, like I said, so it is a shame in regards to the slight change in priorities of songs, but given that the visuals are a priority for me, this is how it's going to have to be, at least for now. So like I said, commercial songs, at least for the time being, will have to be on a no-no basis. But RKO is teeming with remixes. There's in fact no shortage of them. So I see that as a minor problem. Besides, if you really want to listen to the commercial releases, hey, just put them in the rotational prior to or after the show, or in one of the many other hundreds of hours that you have every week. So I'm going to thank again everyone in the chat. I will let you be taken out with Skits and Moog, the final groove and synth sample mix. I'll be back next Sunday. Check out for more shows on slayradio.org, and I'll see you next time.